first thanking God for waking me up this morning, allowing me to go through my day and not be overtaken by anything wicked. I ask the Lord to forgive me for not devoting the time as I should for this work that I've pledged to dedicate to God. Today I want to talk about a message that I've been meaning to do for a while, but I never kind of really got around to it. Like I said, I apologize to my Heavenly Father for my, at times, lack of diligence in bringing forth His Word and trying to bring forth my perspective and my belief on the Bible. But this is a message that I've been planning to do for a while, because whenever I go through the Bible, the way my mind work is I just have this crack brain, this funny brain that has a way of looking at a particular story in the Bible and kind of putting realism on it and not blowing through the meaning of what it's supposed to be. Now, we spent a lot of time growing up in churches where the Bible says, "Judge not unless ye be judged." And one of the greatest criticisms that people have in the church is single mothers. A woman that hasn't gotten married and has children, the girlfriend. And you'll never really hear the girlfriend story preached in church. It's just one of those little taboo subjects where, people already have their preconceived ideas and notions of what a Christian is supposed to be. A Christian is a Christian by one's ability to follow this rule and follow that rule and not take literal when Jesus said, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. When Paul said, while we were yet sinners, he didn't die for the perfect person. He died for the imperfect person, the person that has made lifelong mistakes and, live in a life of sin is the one he died for. But you'll never really hear this girlfriend story taught in church because, like I said, it kind of will justify, it will kind of shoot down some in not all churches and all pastors, all bringers of God's word tend to believe that. But I'm just under the impression that there's something in this book right here, in this Bible. There is something for every single one. No matter what kind of crazy story you got in your life, you can find it somewhere in this book right here. And you can see how crazy people's lives was and some of the crazy things that they did. And, not just crazy, but the beauty in some of these stories, a lot of the side stories are that, under a normal everyday circumstance would not be where you would commonly bring forth a good truth. No one would sit down and say that the girlfriend can bring something into God's word, that God can deliver a message through the girlfriend. And I'm about to get into that, but I always believe in bringing the history of it all, what's behind the particular thing I'm trying to explain. So if everybody that has a Bible can get their Bible, or you can just watch and listen along. But I'm going to start by reading from Joshua, the 9th chapter, beginning at the first verse. And it came to pass, when all the kings which were on this side Jordan in the hills, and in the valleys, and in all the coasts of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittite, and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard thereof. And they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that Joshua had heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and to Ai, they did work willfully, and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles old, and rent and bound up. Now, the people of Gibeon heard how Joshua had done unto Jericho and Ai, and they so feared Joshua that under a guise of deceit, they went and they tore their clothes up. They made like they were like great men of Gibeon, and dirtied themselves up and tore up their clothes and came with, the dirtiest of rags and old shoes, and clouded upon their feet, and old garments upon them. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal, and said unto him and to the men of Israel, We be come from a far country, and therefore make ye a league with us. And the men of Israel said unto Hivites, Peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make league with you? And they said unto Joshua, We are thy servants. And Joshua said unto them, Who are ye, and from whence ye come? And they said unto him, From a very far country thy servants are come because of the name of the Lord thy God, for we have heard the fame of him and all that he did in Egypt. So they basically, scared about how Israel was moving through the land, kind of, under deceit and under treachery, made themselves, torn up clothes and moldy food and, basically like bums. And they just went before Joshua and started proclaiming, we see Israel's great victories in the land because of your Lord your God, and how, we could see these exploits all the way back to Egypt. We've been observant of how, your God has carried you through, and, we fear your God. Now mind you, the whole time, they done dusted themselves up and, dirtied their clothes and, show up, in front of Joshua like, they done come a long way, and, it was all in the name of fear. They didn't want to get exterminated too, so, they concocted this little plan to, try to see if they can gain mercy from Israel. And they said unto him, From a very far country thy servants are come, because of the name of the Lord thy God, for we have heard the fame of him, and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and to Og, king of Bashan, which was at Ashtaroth. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spake to us, saying, take victuals with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say unto them, we are your servants, therefore now make ye a league with us. They trying to basically set up a peace treaty. We see how y'all running through the land, and we don't, want to fall victim to, y'all dominance in the land. So, right now we just trying to set up a peace treaty. We trying to get in league. This is our bread we took hot from our provision out of our houses on the day we came forth to go unto you. But now, behold, it is dry and it is moldy. And these bottles of wine which we filled were new, and behold, they be rent, and these our garments and our shoes are become old by reason of the very long journey. And the men took to their victuals, and asked not counsel at the mouth of the Lord. And Joshua made peace with them, and made a league with them, and let them live. And the princes of the congregation swear unto them. So they basically, okay, well, y'all come to us, and, y'all need help, and, we'll sign this peace treaty. We ain't gonna do you dirty. You know what I'm saying? We agree to, let y'all, dwell among us, and, we ain't gonna bring you no harm. And it came to pass at the end of 3 days, after they had made league with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors, and that they had dwelt among them. So 3 days after, they signed this peace treaty, they come to find out, like, wait a minute, he ain't from no far off. These the Gibeonites. They from right over there. You know what I'm saying? They done shot us to okie doke. And the children of Israel journeyed, and came unto their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, and Shephirah, Beeroth, Kirjath Jearim. And the children of Israel smote them not, because of the princes of the congregation had sworn unto them by the Lord God of Israel. They basically said, well, they wanted to go, really want to get them back for that. You shot us to okie doke, we coming to get you back for that. But because we promised God, we swore to God that, we wouldn't do that, they in a little bit of a jam right now. This we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us, because of the oath which we swore unto them. And the princes said unto them, let them live, but let them be hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation, as the princes has promised them. So basically, okay, y'all shot us to okie doke, okay, cool. Y'all our neighbors or not. So basically what y'all did is y'all still signed on the dotted line to be our servants. So go chop down our wood and get us some water, and just basically made them household servants. And they could have went and killed them all in for, kind of shooting one past them. But, they made that oath to not kill them under God. And they kept that treaty. Now, you might be wondering so far, what does this have to do with the girlfriend? Well, further on down the road, we don't get past Joshua, we go through the judges of Israel, and the people now wanting God to give them a king, and God grants them a king, Saul. And Saul starts out good in the beginning, then became all about himself, and starting from 2 Samuel 21 verse 1, the story continues. Then there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year. And David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, "It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites." So, mind you, we've gone through, we done fast forwarded now. Saul was the king. He commits suicide. He slaughters the people of Gibeah and kills himself for violating the oath made with Joshua to the Gibeonites that he would never slay them by the sword. And because that promise was violated, that peace treaty was violated, and it was made in the name of God, God brought famine on the land. And 3 years into the famine, David asked of God, well, why do you have this famine on the land? And God tells David, because Saul is the one that killed off the Gibeonites in violation of an oath that you said you wouldn't do that in my name. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, now the king at this time is now David. Saul's gone. David's in charge. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, now the Gibeonites were not the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the children of Israel had sworn unto them, and Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of Israel and Judah. Wherefore David said unto the Gibeonites, what shall I do for you, and wherewith shall I make the atonement, that ye may bless the inheritance of the Lord? So Saul's gone, David's in charge, and he calls the Gibeonites and basically wants to make right. Our past ruler, violated this peace agreement and this peace treaty that we had, and I'm coming to you now as the new king to ask you, well, what can I give you in atonement or payment for restitution? And the Gibeonites said unto him, we will have nor silver nor gold of Saul, nor of his house. For us shalt thou kill any men in Israel. And he said, what ye shall say, that I will do for you. And they answered the king, the man that consumed us, and that devised against us, that we should be destroyed from the remaining in any of the coasts of Israel. Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them unto the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord did choose. And the king said, I will give them. Now, you have to put this into a realistic perspective and not the mindset of a person living in 2012, but you got to put it in the mindset of 5,000 years ago. We signed a peace treaty years before, and we live in peace. And all of a sudden, your man violates that, and he comes through and he kills everybody. And what's left of them were called before the new king, and the new king now wants to make restitution to the men of Gibeah for the violation of the peace treaty. So the men of Gibeah asked for the 7 sons of Saul, the 7 men of Saul, the 7 sons of Saul, so that they can take them up to the hill in Gibeah and hang them on the hill as a sacrifice to God for the violation of the peace between Gibeah and Israel. And got to put it into a mindset now. You know, hard, cruel day, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, literal. So David says, sure, here you go. But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the Lord's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. And that oath basically was that Jonathan was David's best friend, like his brother, and Jonathan saved David from the wrath of Saul during the time of David's fleeing Judah into the wilderness, where he wrote the great Psalms. But because he made an oath to God that he would never harm Jonathan or Jonathan's house, Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, was spared the payment to the Gibeonites for the sin of Saul. So he hands over the sons, 5 from his marriage and 2 from the girlfriend. But the king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, whom she bare unto Saul, Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Saul, whom she brought up for Adriel, son of Barzillai, and Mehoiate. So basically, David hands over the 5 sons of Saul and the 2 from this concubine, the girlfriend, Rizpah. And he delivered them unto the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before the Lord. And they fell all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. Now, I've done told the history of this peace treaty that was set up, even though it was set up in deceit. There was a peace treaty set up in the name of God that Israel would never do harm to Gibeah. And years later, Saul, first king of Israel, violates that agreement made by Joshua. And after his suicide, God brings a famine on the land 3 years. At which point David asks of God, what's going on? Why are we going through this? And God tells him that they're going through this because of Saul's violation of the peace treaty between Gibeah and Israel. So David calls the men of Gibeah together and asks them, what can I give you as payment for the sins of our former king to set this right? So they ask for the sons of Saul. So David hands over, minus the son of Jonathan, he hands over 7 sons of Saul, 5 by his wife and 2 by his concubine or his girlfriend Rizpah. And David gave them to him, and they took him on the hill and they hung him. And the Bible puts certain emphasis on the time at which they were hung. And this is what the beautiful part of this girlfriend story really comes in. And Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, took sackcloth. Hold on, going back to the 9th verse. And he delivered them to the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before the Lord. And they all fell, all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. Now, the beauty of this story is that they hang them on the hill, and the geography of Israel, time of year in Israel for the first days of the barley harvest is around March. So pay attention that the 7 sons of Saul were hanged on the hill in Gibeah in March, first days of the barley harvest. And Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, took sackcloth and spread it for her upon the rocks, from the beginning of the harvest until the water dropped upon them out of heaven, and suffered neither the birds of the air to rest on them by day, nor the beasts of the field by night. So, time frame. They're hung on the hill in March, beginning of the barley harvest, to the coming of the first rains, the rainy season. And the rainy season comes to Israel around October. So from March, that's March, April, May, June, July, August. Well, we won't count March because it's the beginning of the barley harvest is end of March. So I will say April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So roughly 6-7 months. She laid out a piece of cloth and fought the birds off of the dead bodies by day and fought away the animals by night to preserve some kind of dignity, not only for her sons, her 2 sons, but the other 5 sons of Saul as well. The Bible doesn't make the distinction that she just fought off the animals off of just her 2 sons. But the Bible's very clear that from the beginning of the barley harvest, which was March, April, to the coming of the rains, which is late September, beginning of October, that 6-7 months, she sat up on the hill and fought away the birds by day for all of the sons, fought away the beast at night for all of the sons of Saul, not just hers. And it was told to David what Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, the concubine of Saul, had done. Again, we're talking about the girlfriend. She sat up on the hill 7 months, fighting away the animals and the birds from these 2 sons of her womb and 7 sons of Saul. And the message finally gets back to David about what this woman had done. And it was told to David what Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, the concubine of Saul, had done. And David went and took the bones of Saul and the bones of Jonathan his son from the men of the Beshiad, which had stolen them from the street of Beshan, where the Philistines had hanged them, when the Philistines had slain Saul in Gilboa. And he brought up from thence the bones of Saul and the bone of Jonathan his son, and they gathered the bones of them that were hanged. And the bones of Saul and Jonathan his son they buried in the country of Benjamin in Zala, in the sepulchre of Kish his father. And they performed all that the king commanded. And after that, God was entreated for the land. So, David sees the compassionate act of this mother and showing his own compassion, takes down the bones of the 7 sons, and he takes the bones of Saul, and he takes the bones of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and he gives them a proper burial. In the land of Benjamin, he gives them a proper burial because of the girlfriend. The girlfriend, when no one else was on the hill, demonstrating a pure act of love. And David saw this act of compassion and his act of kindness and his act of love and showed his own compassion and took the bones of Saul and his sons and gave them a proper burial. Now, again, it's my belief that you won't get too many stories in the Bible like that because, again, Rizpah wasn't the wife of Saul. She was the concubine. She was the girlfriend. And the girlfriend goes against the modern doctrine of the church. But like I said, and it's my genuine belief that when you go through this book right here, when you go through the Bible, that I'm a genuine, honest believer that that there is something in this book that can pertain to everyone's life. Don't matter how crazy it is. It don't matter how weird it seems. It don't matter how ridiculous, how crazy it all looks. At some point in modern life, there's a story in this Bible that can relate to any situation that one can go through in their life. I thank God for giving me the ability to have another day to bring forth the perfect Mother's Day / girlfriend story that can kind of break the mold of the general thinking of the church. I'm not here to go against the church. I'm just here to prove that once and for all, no matter how crazy a situation is in your life, that throughout the worst and ridiculous looking things, God can bring a glimmer of truth and a glimmer of life to show that in that situation, he is still there. No matter who tells you that God is against this and God is against that. True, God holds us all accountable, but he's also given us all a way out. And this book has shown over and over and over again that no matter what situations, and in here there are plenty that mirror some of the most wildest things you can ever imagine, the most Jerry Springer of situations are in this book. And I don't say it to poke fun at the Bible, but to bring a realism to it, that it's a real breathing, living word that's meant to teach us, no matter what our place or our status in life, that God chooses from among the most humble or among the most destitute or among the most unworthiest of people to bring forth beautiful understandings and beautiful wisdoms and truth. I thank God for the reading of his word. I thank God that you were all able to join today. I pray that God shows a little bit of enlightenment through his word. I say again, thank you. Good night. God bless. See you again soon.
Can't go wrong, 'cause I always know